In this video, you will learn how to create a multilingual translation application using NextJS and Myelin AI while using a AI provider of your choice. So let's get started. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a NextJS application, and we're going to give it a name called Multilingual App. Okay, so let's cd into Multilingual App and let's start our server. So this is going to start a server in localhost port 3000, and let's remove the boilerplate code. Return to do. And let's create a folder here called components inside the app, and we'll create a banner component. Say banner. Now that we have our basic application, let's go to the next step. Let's add ShatCN into our application tab and then run this command. So the next thing that we want to do is let's commit all of our changes. Say added ShatCN and banner. So the next step is to initialize Myelin. So Myelin is an open source library that helps you do translations. So first what we want to do is we want to initialize and we want to create a new Myelin project. So we want to do npx Myelin. And it's going to ask us and give us some options. So we want to install and initialize a new Myelin configuration. Let's select English as our source language. We want to select French, Spanish, and Chinese. Let's select 3 languages, maybe even Korean, and maybe Urdu as well. So 5 languages. Locales is our locales location. App is the location of our source code. Local, OpenAI, and then our preferred model, let's select to GPT-4o. And as you can see, our configuration file is created successfully, and it says to add the AI API key to our end file. We'll go to API keys, and let's create a Myelin demo. Let's copy this, save it here. Now let's go ahead and create our locales. So we can create a folder called locales en, and then we want to add a namespace called banner JSON. So the way how Myelin works is Myelin doesn't understand file level translations. It only understands namespace level. Well, it actually does understand file level, but I encourage you not to use file level translation because scaling problems. So as your application grows, that file is going to get larger and larger, and it'll get to a point where it'll be very hard to manage. So it's better to always go with the namespace approach, because namespace by definition is limited, right? So here in the banner, you only have 3 keys. So you have banner title, Myelin AI, well, 2 in this case, a banner description, translation infrastructure that sparks joy. Okay, so now that we have our locale, let's go ahead and translate this into our target languages. The way how we can do that is by using the translate command. And once you run translate, it's going to automatically start the translation pipeline. And as you can see, it is really fast because this is happening right in your machine. And once it has found the keys, it is going to translate it, and then it's going to save it in the locales followed by the name of the language, and then the name of the namespace. Now what happens if we run this again? Well, nothing happened, because the system is pretty smart in that sense, because it already knows that you have these translations. So now if you go and look at the locales, we can see that your translation has been generated. So behind the scenes, what happens is it takes your OpenAI key that you added in your env, and then it translates it for you, and then it saves it over here. So now that we have our translation, let's commit it. So added translations for banner. Let's say that, in the future, you want to add one more, let's say info. And this info we can get from myelin.dev. And let's run translate again and see what happens. Now, instead of translating 3 keys, we have translated only 1 key, because it knows that this was added. So now that we have our banner information, now let's go ahead and use this translation in our application. So there are many translation applications that you can use, libraries, right? We're going to use React i18next, and there is a command. So one of the commands that you can add is components. And as you can see, there's a lot of different components that you can add. The one that we are interested in is in i18next. So what this does is it's going to install all the dependencies. As you can see here, it added 11 files. Let's quickly go over them one by one. So first is the middleware. Middleware basically runs every time your app route changes, and it just checks for the cookies, and then it set the cookies over here. Next, you have the cookie utilities, which is a getter and setter. Nothing really special. Here again is an async function that gets the lang from cookies and direction from, we pass the lang to dir, and based on the lang, it gives LTR or right to left. And then this gets used in here. So we are calling this, and then we're passing it to the HTML. And as you can see, it wraps the i18next provider, which is defined over here. And in i18next provider, what we are doing is we are just wrapping again the children with the i18 instance and the i18next provider from React i18next. And if you look at this i18 instance, this is coming from here, and here we are calling the create instance to create an instance, and we are using a bunch of plugins. So first we have the chain to backend, then you have the language detector, and then you have the init i18next, and then the i18 options. i18 options is defined here. So if you go here, we can see that we have some default configurations. The most interesting is this one. So every time you change a language, it goes ahead and it imports the language. So as you can see, it imports for locales, language, and then the namespace. So now that we have this, we also have one function or one component called language selector. And as you can see right now, we have an error because it uses the SHATCN. So what we want to do is we want to install these two. So we can go to our notes. Our notes are here, and we want to copy this one over here, this command, and we want to run this over here. Yes. So what this is going to do is it's going to add the drop-down menu and button, and now this error should disappear. Now, what we want to do is we want to go to layout. Actually, let's import all this. So add i18 next. We want to go to layout, and we want to wrap this HTML with i18next HTML provider, which we just saw, right? Okay, so now that we have our component wrapped with this provider, we can go to the we can go ahead and add the language switcher here. Okay, cool. Before we go ahead and implement this, let's also add this command, Myelin upsert, and we are going to generate the types. So what we just did is we generated the types for our, so if I go here, it created this file, and then we have the resource, the banner. Now this is useful because now we can go to our banner and we can implement the translation. So if I go T, use translation, and we can, so as you can see, because we have our custom types defined, it's going to give us this nice TypeScript, it's going to automatically have this for us, which is very nice, because as you can see, if we use this again in T here, it's going to populate it for us. So we want the title here. Then so what's happening here? So as you can see, we run into some error. This is because we need to pass, we need to make this a client component. So by default, NextJS thinks every component is a server component, and you cannot use hooks in server components, hence the error. And let's also add the description here, and we can also add the info, and that's T of 8, and text small, and max width Excel. And text center. Actually, font mono. Cool. So now our application is ready. So now if we change to Spanish, it's going to give us Spanish. If we change to Korean, it's going to give us Korean. Yeah, so that's basically it. Now what we can do is we can just say add it, implement it, i18 next in React. And the nice thing about this approach is you don't have to depend on the locales on your URL. So I know a lot of times, because you have to create a specific locale, it kind of forces you to build an application in a certain way, right? Put all your stuff in locale. But what if in the future you don't want that? Or what if, you have already started your application and now you have to add locales and there's like hundreds of files you need to move. So it causes a lot of inconvenience because we are using cookies to handle our languages. This approach is really nice, right? Yeah, so let's add one more thing. So let's say we want to add an extra namespace. So all we need to do is we create, let's say we want to add common namespace, and then let's say CTA. And let's say take my money, right? So the first thing we need to do is if you go to the banner, and if you want to use this, we can add a common, but as you can see, it's not really getting auto-populated, and it's actually throwing error. Why? Because we haven't updated the type. Now we can go ahead and run this upsert again, and now this error should go away, and we can add a button T common CTA. Take my money. Class name MT of 8, rounded of full. Cool. Now to translate this, all we need to do is Myelin translate, and it's going to start translating this specific key. Acepta mi dinero, prenez-moi argent. In Chinese it says, 拿 走我的钱，拿走我的钱，拿走我的钱，拿走我的钱，拿 means to take away，拿走我的钱。And oh, one more thing. Let's say added comma. Let's say we want to add a new language in the future. What do we do? So there is currently a way to do it through the CLI, but what you can do is you can literally go to Myelin config and add your language over here. So let's say you want to add Japanese, for example. So if I go here, refresh, Japanese or ZH Taiwan. Okay. And if you can, the reason why we didn't see Japanese, let's say we want to add two languages, Japanese and Taiwanese Chinese. Looks like we need to update the locales, but libs and i18config. So we want to add JA and Japanese. Now we should be able to see Japanese here. So now that we have added these two languages, we can go ahead and run our translation pipeline. And now you'll see, very interesting. Now it'll say nothing to translate for the other languages, but it found 3 keys for a Chinese, Taiwanese Chinese, which is more traditional Chinese, and then for Japanese. So now if we go to Taiwanese Chinese, we can see that it has been translated for us. Now, obviously, if you don't like this this translation, right? You can actually go to the locales and you can change it. Myelin, right? Myelin, and that's it. That is all for the demo. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you are interested, please give it a try. I hope you find it useful in translating your React applications. And I hope you learned a lot by watching this video. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video.